Stage is yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining, really. I appreciate that you joined after the lunch, like you said. So I know it's tough, so I'll be, gentle to you. That's my promise. And it's great to see you, and it's great to support Voxxed Days. We did that with Thessaloniki one, and I hope that we'll do it again this November, and we'll plan to land more in Greece. So in case you see great developer events across Greece, please talk to me, as I'm covering Greece at Microsoft right now. And it's great to be here, literally. The dev ecosystem here is huge, and I hope it will be even better. And for the next 15 minutes, I would like to talk to you about our Azure Cognitive Services. I've seen that some of you have been in our booth where we are having that cool real crowd analytics demo. It's one of the pet projects built actually based on cognitive services. And in that really short session, I would like to show you how you can start, what are those, and how you can get 170 euro for those experiments with cognitive services for free. But today, actually, I decided to pay back some karma. You know, today is a very special day. It's a World Ocean Day. And people are saying a lot about single-use plastics. And literally, I've been at a coffee shop nearby today, and actually only me have been using that amazing cup which we've got. So in case you haven't checked the swag bag, please check. It's super cool. In case you are not super addicted to coffee, please pass it to your friends or family. That's super, super important. And actually, I found also the very cool quote that you know that 50% all of the pollution and seas across Greece is actually, those are single-use plastics. That's huge, huge challenge. And even, you know, that if you will go, you see the quote, you can read. One of the famous professors from Patras University said that even if you will analyze what's the waste per square meter, most of those like single-use plastics, and there are plenty of them in some of the areas which you know better than me, there are over 3,000 of those pieces. So we have to code the solution. That's an interesting challenge to code. And the good news is that, here is the article where you can read more. We are running as Microsoft the AI for Good challenge, where you can get free cloud credits, support from mentors who are super technical from our Microsoft research team. So in case you'd like to tackle that challenge, definitely there are plenty of ways. And I just want to sound like a crazy guy who is saying about plastic during AI session, but we are having also something as Microsoft. All right, and you see the word Azure at the beginning of my session. So we are having 160 services currently in Azure, and it's rapidly growing. So in case you would like to run a VM, you can do so. 40% of VMs in Azure are running Linux, so we are getting better when it comes to our tricky history. So you are a first-class citizen if you love Linux, Node.js, Python, Go. Definitely, we are constantly adding the support for those programming languages across all of those services which you can see. And in case you are not fully ready for the public cloud, we are having something which is called Azure Stack. And the good news is that a couple of those services, which I will show today, can also run in a kind of hybrid on-prem environment, because we are trying to tackle all of those solutions. But today we'll talk about something which is truly unique regarding cloud. It's truly focused on AI, which is, I feel, definitely the sexiest thing in that map. We've got a couple of questions. So how many data centers you have and how many are coming? So I can refer to that particular slide where we announced 54 Azure regions, and in many of those cognitive services can be run. And we've got also an interesting question regarding the demo which we are running in the booth. What kind of compliance standards you are supporting? You are probably, as the developer, then dealing with very sensitive data. So we are having today more than 90 standards supported, from ISO to GDPR, and crazy amount of those. And we are having cool site trust center. So if you are coming from finance sector, if you are coming from retail, definitely you can find the sections there. But coming back to cognitive services, so what are those? Those are, in a nutshell, pre-configured and pre-trained AI models. And we are having currently 5 categories. And you can ask what I can do with cognitive services. Let's take the example of the app which is analyzing people. So through Face API from the vision category, you can easily check what's the age, what's the gender, what's the sentiment. And most of those services are supporting many scenarios. We are having a very broad description on our site. And you can see in the directory what our cognitive services can do. On top of those very cool face APIs, we are having, for example, very new ink recognizer, which is quickly allowing you to inject the particular part of our APIs and then transfer something which is written into something digital. And what's the deal? Sounds super easy. If you are scanning and you are reading those statements, they are super, super easy to do. But let's imagine from the dev hours point of view. The idea for cognitive services is to give back some time to you, and instead of like writing everything from scratch, for example, face identification, you can simply open the resource in cloud, call specific APIs, authenticate the request with specific key, and at the end, you are rather thinking how to inject that in specific part of your app, not actually coding everything from scratch. Recently, we hired a really amazing Python developer, and I asked her, how you see cognitive services? And she said, God, I saved a lot of time. The good news is that I can use those APIs by using my Python skills, but literally the best value which she provided as a feedback for me was that she was able to quickly, in a very rigid, agile way, use some pre-configured models, and in the end, actually compute power, which is sitting in our Azure cloud, gave her like a huge boost when it comes to, for example, doing a couple of calculations. There is a very nice, if you are dealing with machine learning, there's a very nice custom vision API where you can simply customize the image recognition, and even our API can quicker label the data. And there are plenty of hacks across all of those cognitive services, and definitely devil is in details. Each of them are SDKs, REST APIs, even of those are like ready to go PaaS solutions, so it depends. But in case you see some solutions which you are currently building, maybe you are creating something to index the videos in the intranet, definitely stop and check if cognitive services are a good fit for your needs. A month ago, we had the Microsoft Build conference. That's a flagship developer conference in our world, and we announced a new decision category where we added the new personalizer API. That's the same algorithm which we are using and serving our Xbox customers. That's the most advanced currently API. It's using the power of reinforcement learning, where you can easily divide couple of events in your events, and then in your apps, and then serve those customers with different outputs and different way how you can definitely, for example, change the content which they are seeing in their particular view. Then the ink recognizer, I mentioned that if you are using any similar solution, that's the same case like you know, for example, from OneNote. The beauty of that particular API is that that's not only easy to implement and have something digital structured, but also you can benefit from other APIs where you can, for example, translate that text from Greek into German, and then you can play with many different APIs which are allowing to build something much more advanced. That's very cool one, conversation transcription capability, very long name for the API. But let's imagine that we are sitting near one table and our cognitive services can easily transcript the words which we are using. Greek is also supported. And then someone who is speaking German, Polish, English will see also the text transcribed on the screen, and then you can do whatever you want with those. We see that many companies actually then, for example, simply translating those into different languages, or they are targeting accessibility scenarios where that text is then being translated into something different. Let's, I have only 15 minutes, so I try to be high level to give you the value prop of those APIs, but let's go deeper with one of those. So I've mentioned the form recognizer API. So a lot of data, unstructured data from our dev point of view, is sitting in the forms. Those can be images or PDFs. We've decided to open a preview, which you can currently test, and it's almost available almost for free, where you can quickly extract some information out of those forms. We are supporting any kind of form, and then that's one of the most basic APIs which we are currently having. And you are simply calling the input. So let's imagine a very simple app with upload button where you are then, the user is saving some PDFs or images. And then our API is, as you can see on the right side, is giving such an output where you can take it and use I will say again for whatever you want, because there are plenty of solutions. One of our preview customers simply decided to recognize the invoices, and they've been recognizing specific internal orders and budgets on the forecasting app side, where they've been quickly associating specific costs to specific budgets. We are having a very cool news that API is the simplest, because we are asking you to train that pre-configured model only by uploading 5 forms. Literally, our API can do what you've seen, like in 10-second speech, after you would train our model based on 5 forms, which are, for example, unique for your company. We'll soon announce more features when it comes to what that form recognizer can do, and you will be able to tweak that model and actually even go through the code which was created for that model and do something which is much more advanced. Some of you know the Romanian company UiPath, which is like currently a US unicorn. They moved to US, and they decided to build a huge next wave of the RPA solution based actually on that API. So very big company, rapidly growing, so they decided to use that API which we've built for our customers instead of creating something from scratch. The very exciting part will be that we'll try to also use something which is super structured. So we are thinking about adding some features which will allow, for example, to add some voice into the way what is analyzed by the API, and really through voice commands to tweak that output, and we can see that specific call center agents, for example, can do very simple tweaks with the data which was like exported into something which is much more structured. Here is the full process, like described in very simple four steps. And definitely the most interesting part is at the discovery stage, where we are having plenty of great technical articles which are showing how you can then play with the data, but at high level is the process. That's what our API is currently doing. And you can ask why cloud? Because the output for those APIs is simply calculated on the cloud side, so it's super quick. But we've got the questions from our customers who would like to deploy those models on the edge. So for example, a very simple IoT devices. So we are constantly adding the support for many of those APIs to be run in a Docker container. So you can imagine every device which is capable to run Docker containers, and literally you can use those models, export from our cloud and use in Docker containers, and then you are only reporting back through something which is also standardized the consumption. So for example, how many faces you've analyzed through that app, and then you are paying simply for number of transactions. The payment model for those APIs is interesting. For example, for Face API, which is allowing you to analyze those faces, on top of like very detailed quick starts, how-to guides, we are also supporting those services in our Azure calculator. And for those Face APIs, we are paying for number of transactions sent and sent back to the cloud. Let's imagine, and you can visit our booth to see the full app, which is based on those, that you are only paying for one analysis, which is then made in the middle of that process. So we are then trying to send a group of pictures to the cloud to identify those and like the details which you can see called as features, frictions at the end. And at the end, you can simply compile many images, and you are only paying for the number of single transactions. So if your app is, for example, analyzing 20 people on one picture, you are paying only for that one transaction which is being sent on the cloud. You will see in our booth that each face is having kind of face ID, and then you are able to then group those people. You can create custom data sets, and also simply you can even compare the people to specific data sets which you already collected. There's a very interesting and very simple sample app, which is open source GitHub repo, where one of the companies built a super quick app where they've been comparing the images of the employees working in the reception to the data set with the photos made during the onboarding, and they've been simply trying to see who's coming when, and at the end they had full data without scanning the badges. What I tried to also show that for all of those APIs, we are having a couple of tutorials and couple of how-to guides. The best things for those APIs are those quick starts, where you can pick your favorite programming language and see how in detail you are simply building the process with opening the resource in cloud, then calling specific key, authenticating the requests, and through for example, Python, identifying specific elements which they are being analyzed through our APIs. Here's the directory, so the list of 25 plus APIs. And that's only the beginning. So we've touched in those 12 minutes only those which you can see at the top. If you like to build custom models, in case you need only, for example, compute power, we are having more services in Azure. They are called Azure Machine Learning. And we are having plenty of projects where we are trying to do our best to support your beloved open source frameworks. So if you are TensorFlow expert, definitely you are first-class citizen currently in our cloud. And as you can see, we are having plenty of those services there. Those might sound like super basic, and it is. That's the goal, to make every developer an AI developer and give you back some time. In case you would like to learn more, we are having plenty of cloud advocates, currently 99, where we are constantly hiring. And today, in that particular room, Adi Polak will have a cool session on the Apache Spark. This was just the beginning. I know that I gave only the high-level overview. Talk to us in our booth, so we'll be able to dig into details. Thanks.